Hey everybody, Backpacker Luke here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Amazon backpacking tent that's considered an ultralight 1 or 2 person, 3-season backpacking tent. It's called the LANSHAN, and I'll kind of spell that out for you on the screen so you can see what I'm talking about. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, is this tent right here. So let's get into it. So first things first, I'm going to have the price of the tent right here for you. I'm also going to have the weight of this tent right here for you. So once again, this is the LANSHAN ultralight backpacking tent, and it comes either as a 1-person or a 2-person tent, depending on which model you get. This is the 1-person tent. I'm gonna have video playing throughout of me setting it up and tearing it down and taking a look on the inside and sort of how much space I had on the inside. And I'm gonna be showing that throughout and be talking about it all throughout, but just wanna throw that on the front end there as kind of the price of it and the weight of it, because those are really important factors to consider when you're looking at backpacking gear. So I know sometimes scale is sort of hard to see, especially on videos, but to get a better scale for you of the size of this tent, so I've compressed this about as much as I want to, at least in the stuff sack or compression sack that it comes with. This is a 1-liter smart water bottle. This is oftentimes what I will carry with me for my water bottle when I'm backpacking. And so I'm just gonna put this up next to the tent here for you so you can kind of see the size difference here in the scale. So it's actually pretty much the exact same height as a 1-liter smart water bottle, and of course a little bit thicker, but I just wanted to give you an idea of sort of the scale of it. I know it's sort of hard to do that sometimes. So there you go, that's the size of it. That is pretty much what it would look like packed inside your backpack, and this is about as small as you want to take it, at least in the compression sack that comes with the tent. If you start cinching it down more, you kind of just warp it and not really make it smaller. It just sort of changes shape, but doesn't get any smaller for you. So I'll say that the first time I set up the tent, I set it up twice. The first time I had never set up a trekking pole tent before. If you don't know what that means, is that basically it is not a freestanding tent, and it doesn't come with poles for it to become either freestanding or a supported standing tent. So how you set up a tent like this is you actually use a trekking pole to sort of become almost like a teepee, where it becomes that central pole there, and then the tent kind of remains upright based on your trekking pole that you're using. So when using a tent like this, you need to make sure that you bring trekking poles, not just for yourself while you're walking, but also you have to use the trekking pole to actually keep the tent upright. So that's really important. So the first time that I set up the tent, it took me a while. I'd actually never set one up before that was a trekking pole tent. So I kind of had some trial and error. I was trying to figure it out, and it took a little bit, but I actually eventually got there, and it didn't take probably more than 7 minutes to set it up the first time. Then I tore it all down, and it only took a couple of minutes to tear it all down and get it packed up again. And then I set it back up once again, now knowing what I needed to know. And it probably took me about 4 minutes to set up completely, maybe a little bit longer. I was also trying to make sure that I was recording well, and also my dog was out there with me at different times, so kind of working with that. But it was right around 4 or 5 minutes for me to set up the second time when I already knew what I was doing with it. So once the tent is actually set up and you're inside of it, once again, I wanted to remind you that this is a 1-person tent, not the 2-person tent. So the room inside of it is going to be a bit smaller than I usually end up carrying 2-person tents with me. So the room inside is going to be a bit smaller than you're expecting maybe. So just remember that this one is the 1-person tent. So keep that all in mind as you're looking at this video and kind of figuring it out for yourself. Overall though, the room in the tent was actually quite comfortable. I didn't feel like I was scrunched up inside of it or that I couldn't move around at all. I was able to get in, spread my legs out, and be comfortable and not feel like I was touching the sides of the tent all the time. And also sitting up in the tent was pretty comfortable. There was enough headroom that I didn't feel like I was slouched over the entire time, and just trying to kind of fit inside the space, I actually felt like I had space to move around and be comfortable in it. The next thing is also the vestibule of the tent. So the vestibule, if you don't know, is the space between the mesh of the tent and the rainfly, where it comes down and stakes out. So that vestibule is usually where you'll end up putting your shoes, your socks, whatever that kind of stuff is, maybe your backpack, your gear that you don't want to get wet if it rains, and just you want it close to you. So the vestibule of the tent is actually just about as good as any vestibule I've seen on other backpacking tents. So that is a plus for this tent, that the vestibule is actually a really nice size, and for 1 person storing their gear in that vestibule, it's enough definitely to store whatever you need to there. So big plus for the LANSHAN tent on that is the vestibule is really great. The space inside the tent is really comfortable. It does come with 1 pouch in the tent. I would have liked to see maybe a couple more pouches, or sometimes we'll put mesh at the top of the tent so you can kind of put your phone up there, or a light, and it shines down so you have sort of a lantern kind of feel inside your tent. They don't have any of that. They just have a single pocket at the front of the tent for you to stow a couple of items. But it is pretty sparse on as far as kind of amenities inside the tent and storage. But overall, the feel of the tent is actually really nice. Another pro for the tent is it is actually decently compact. It didn't feel like I was taking up a lot of extra space when I was using it. So even just carrying it with me and packing it in my backpack as compared to some other tents that I've carried with me, it does not take up a lot of space. It's quite compact and simple to carry around with you. I really appreciate that. The next thing is the stuff sack that it comes in is actually a compression sack. So it allows you to cinch it down as much as you want to sort of make a smaller, take up less space with the tent to a degree anyway. And I found that really useful. I actually like that it came with compression straps. Sometimes some tents that I've got, especially off of Amazon, will have straps that feel unnecessary, like a carry handle that's sewn into the tent, and I don't really want a carry handle on my tent. But when it comes with its stuff sack being also a compression sack, I really like that. And another thing with the compression sack that it comes with is it also has the roll top kind of style bag, so you can roll it, and also gives it some waterproofing, which is huge for a tent. I really like that it comes in a very lightweight, very slick stuff sack that has a roll top and compression straps all built in within it. So the thing about it being slick is that you can pull it in and out of your bag really easily without pulling every other piece of gear with it, because it's so slick. That sil nylon is so slippery that it can just pull straight out of your bag with really little resistance, which is an awesome feature to have with any kind of stuff sack that you want to put in your bag. So cons for this tent, there are a few to keep in mind. The first one is that it does require a trekking pole to stake up or to kind of keep it supported. So you do have to carry trekking poles with you. However, you also are not carrying tent poles with you. And it does come with stakes already. So you don't have to actually bring separate stakes to stake out your tent, which is a nice little feature. You might want to bring ones that are a little bit lighter, but these ones that come with it are actually quite light. They're about as light as my MSR ones I already have, so I would actually just keep these ones and use them again. So, but a con is that you do need to carry a trekking pole, at least a single one, with you to actually make the tent viable to use. Another thing with the trekking pole is also that there were a few times I was kind of messing with it and trying to figure it out, especially when I was new with it, and it would fall over or sort of lose balance, and then the whole thing just sort of collapses on you. Or you just kind of lose the structure all at once if the trekking pole slips or falls out or gets moved or kind of hit while you're going in and out of the tent, because the trekking pole is right in front of the door that you need to move in and out of. So if you're not careful, you could hit the trekking pole and cause the tent to collapse. So that's a bummer. However, it is really easy to set back up. So not a huge con, but it is a con that you have to carry a trekking pole with you, and also you can knock it over and just collapse your tent all at once. So there you go. The next thing is the fabric. It is decent fabric. The Dyneema is decent, but it's not amazing. I did notice, so I have set up and torn down this tent twice, and as I was stuffing everything back into the stuff sack this time, I did see a tiny tear developing in the stuff sack already, which is kind of a big deal. So you might consider bringing a separate compression sack with you and putting the tent in that one if it's a little bit thicker, instead of taking the one that comes with the tent. So there might be a small added cost there for a different compression sack than the one the tent comes in, because that Dyneema, the stuff sack, was a little bit fragile, it seemed like. I haven't beat up this tent at all and taken on the trail even, and yet there was a tiny tear in it just from kind of pulling it in and out a couple of times. So that is a really big con to consider. So the way to sort of counteract that would be to just buy a separate compression sack to put it all in, instead of the one that it comes with, in case that one tears on you. So there you go. The next con is that now while it is like 2.11 pounds, I believe it is, that is a light tent, but it is not an ultralight tent. So if you're comparing it to something like the Z-Pax Duplex, or I think it's called a Soloplex, or Dutchware, or some of these other really truly ultralight tents, it's not going to compare at all. These ultralight tents are sub 1 pound a lot of times, and this one is 2.11 pounds. So it's about the same weight as my 2-person Big Agnes tent, but it's a single person tent. So you get one less person that can fit in it, but it's about the same weight. Now what you do get out of that is smaller packing size inside your backpack. So it's definitely smaller than my other one. And it's a lot kind of lighter, and not lighter, but it's a lot simpler and cleaner and that kind of stuff. So yeah, so con is that it's not that much lighter than a 2-person backpacking tent that's considered just like a lightweight tent, but it is a much smaller pack. The next thing is also as a con, when setting it up, I noticed that I really wanted to keep the rainfly on it. Otherwise, it's a lot more difficult to set up. So you are probably going to be always using this tent with a rainfly on it. For me personally, it's not that big of a deal because I always set up my tent with a rainfly anyway. So that isn't much of a detour to me or detractor for me. But for some who actually do enjoy using their tents without a rainfly at times, that could be a really big detractor for you. But for me, it isn't. But just so you know, you do pretty much just want to keep the rainfly attached for it to set up well. So all in all, this tent is not the worst tent I've ever dealt with. Certainly not. It is not the best tent I've ever dealt with, but it is a really good budget lightweight tent to use. So when you look at the cost of this tent compared to, let's say, my 2-person Big Agnes tent that I was talking about earlier, the cost differential is pretty huge. So if you're looking for a really good 1-person budget backpacking tent, this is a great tent for you. It's going to do really well for you in that field. But if you're looking for all the bells and whistles, if you're looking for one that's just going to sort of meet every need you could possibly have, or have extra sort of amenities to it, extra pockets, all that kind of stuff, then maybe look at some other tents. But this tent does have its place in a repertoire, and I actually might bring it on one of my trips with me. For one thing, just to test it out in the field, but also it is just a simpler tent to even just pack and unpack. It was really simple to set up. It didn't require trekking poles that might break or snap on you. All you got to use, tent poles that might break or snap on you. All it requires is one single trekking pole. I always carry 2 with me. So even if one trekking pole breaks, I still have the other one. So yeah, those are the pros and cons. I hope that's been helpful for you. I will leave an affiliate link in the description down below if you'd like to check out the tent. And if you end up purchasing the tent through that link, I get a little bit of something back from Amazon. It costs you nothing extra, but I get a little bit from it. But only do that if you are already planning on buying the tent. Please don't buy it unless you want to. That's not what I'm saying. So yeah, I'll just leave that in the description down below. Leave any comments down in the comments below, all that kind of stuff if you want to. I'd love to hear what you have to say about the tent and all that kind of stuff. So I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.